I've been thinking and reading about the precious human life, and one of the questions I keep asking myself when I ever read about that is, what is the essence of our precious human life? That word always comes up every time you read about it, and I'm always like so puzzled by it. And so I really like to put that out as a question for people to think about, because I find it really fruitful, like no matter where my mind is at, just to think, what is the essence and what is the real meaning, and find your own answers. The books will tell you, but I don't think that's what it's all about. So I think it's really good to ponder that question. It's very interesting what your mind comes up with, and I think I won't give you any answers. I just think it's really worthwhile to think like that. The one thing I've read recently about this, though, that has quite struck me is that, and I don't know why, it's so simple, but I maybe hadn't really quite internalized it. When you look at all the different realms of existence, and even if you don't know much about them or think much about them, even if you just look at the realms that you are aware of, like the animal realm and all the different kinds of animals and all the different creatures that we interact with, and then all the human beings that you've met, and then you look at the suffering that is always a part of our lives. One of the things that's very different about being a human is that we can make some sense of this suffering. And that's a huge thing to think about. And just having the capacity to be able to understand why we're suffering and get to the causes of it. Being able to, do that for your own self is so helpful, because that's where for me, the freedom starts to come in, and I start to get to a place of believing that, oh, yeah, as I work with these things, as time goes by, and I see there are causes, then I start to have a little more idea of what this preciousness is, because when you think about renunciation, we think about being compassionate to ourselves by being free of suffering. But the other part of that equation is believing in liberation. Because it's one thing to be free of suffering, but if you don't believe in liberation, there's many ways you could go about being free from suffering. And they might be very temporary, but they would free you temporarily. But in the long run, they wouldn't work so well. So that part about liberation, I think, is so key and so hard to fully embrace, and takes a lot of time. So I think just thinking about that in terms of our ability, because of our capacities as human beings and our preciousness of having all the conducive circumstances to practice the Dharma, gives us this opportunity to understand our suffering, to see the causes of it, and then, full blown, that would really be the Four Noble Truths.